Hey everybody, this is Pete A. Turner, executive producer and host of the Break It Down Show. Hey, today's episode is pretty cool. So, we talk about a lot of different things. Sometimes we talk about politics, sometimes we talk about combat, and we've been focusing a little bit on lighter fare lately. So today's guest has been on before two different times. This is his third visit. This is Ron Miziker, who is a producer of spectaculars. And when I say that, I mean things like halftime shows and birthday parties for the Sultan of Oman. These kind of things where great and fantastic aren't great enough. They want it bigger. And so Ron has taken on a new venture, and I just think the role of it, and let me explain a couple things about this thing. He does these self-tours that he puts together. So if you imagine like people walking around museums with, some kind of produced content going on in a headset, they do that. And he's like, but it's never good enough. I always want to go bigger and better. So when you walk around Rome, or you walk around Paris, or you walk around Philadelphia, he wants to tell you the story in his way without the bounds of anything else. So he's built his own product, his own app that you can buy on the Apple iStore, and you can buy in the Google Play list. And he walks you around these areas specifically, and you guys will love this. There's a New Orleans one where he has Chris Thomas King narrating the journey around, the New Orleans area, whether you're in the French Quarter or standing in front of the statue of this or whatever. And also brings in Chris's specific blues music. And it's a fantastic way to experience these cities where he's done these tours. Dubrovnik, Paris, Rome, the Napa and Sonoma valleys. Hello, yes, thank you. Historic Hollywood. So we go through this whole journey of his creating these apps in the way that really, truly only a few people on earth can do. And the point isn't to push you to someone's shop to sell you statues of the Leaning Tower of Pisa. The point is to take you on a journey that will truly be an extra special thing. So I think you guys will dig what Ron has created. I know I do. I've tried him out, and I intend to, wherever I go to the places where he's got recorded content, I intend to use it from now on. It's that good. Full endorsement from me. The next thing is, hey, subscribe to the show. This is what I'm asking for right now. If you subscribe to the show, you'll be notified. Hit the bell on YouTube, wherever it is, so that way you know when we put out new content, because there's some incredible things we're talking about, incredible people. We have so many fantastic episodes coming up. I can't even tell you. The pipeline is so stocked, full of diverse and fantastic guests. Do me that favor. Subscribe. Grab your special someone's friend and say, you're going to subscribe to the Break It Down Show. Bam. You'll get 5 shows a week. If you're doing the dishes, if you're driving in traffic, if you're watching your kids swim laps, whatever it is, you'll have something to help you occupy the time. All right. One more thing, and you know the deal. Save the Brave. SaveTheBrave.org. This is what we're passionate about. This is where our charity effort goes, and I hope you join us at Save the Brave. Here comes Ron Miziker.
Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Proops.
This is Jordan Harbinger.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This is
East.
Sebastian Younger.
This is Rick Marotta.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
Hey, this is Skunk Baxter.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
This is Ron Miziker, and you're listening to the Break It Down Show.
This is I guess technically your third visit. But now we're talking about your latest venture. I mean, so everybody should go look and see your incredible career, because you are as tied to the Disney family as anybody has ever been. And Super Bowl halftime shows, and 2 New Years ago, your float that you did for a sponsor, they won. So you do spectacular things and in spectacular ways. But now you do a new project. Let's talk about that.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Well, as mentioned in those previous shows, my work has required me to travel a great deal.
Right.
And not only travel to different places, but go there repeatedly, over and over, because we're doing a project there. In fact, an interesting note is that one of my most important clients just passed away about 4 days ago now. And that was the Sultan of Oman.
Right.
And we did 2 spectacular shows for him in Muscat, Oman, right?
Wow.
So not only have I done the popular places like, Europe and Japan and so forth, but I've done the Middle East and others. And I've actually been to about 100 different places, countries,
right,
over the years, And many of them multiple times, because if you're doing a project, you have to go back. In fact, we've done projects in 25 of those countries. So anyway, the bottom line is that people ask me, well, do you like all that traveling? And I go, I love it. I still love going, particularly when I'm going to the new locations.
Yes.
And I like to always explore what's at that location. So in doing that, myself and my wife and myself, she also travels with me a lot more in the recent years. We always try to do, when we get into a new city that we've never been to, we sign up for one of those free city walk tours, or we hire a simple guide or something like that. And we go off on these little tours.
Right.
And we find that they're all just so disappointing, right? I know more about the background of what we're looking at than the tour guides do.
Right.
Because I research it before we go. I want to make sure I know what we're going to be looking for when we get there. And there are so many problems with those tours, whether it's a paid one or a free one. First, if you're with a group, of course, you got to deal with being with a group.
Right.
They tell you to be there at 10 o'clock in the morning at a certain point to start. Half of the people never get there at 10 o'clock, and the guide waits for it because he knows there's a lot more people coming.
Right.
So we wait, and we wait, and we wait, and it's like totally wasted time.
Yeah.
Right? So then we get off and start doing the march to the different locations that we're walking to. And the first thing is they come to the first location and they start talking, and you can't understand a word, or you can't hear it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, so many of them have a broken accent and, a broken language situation. And it's so hard to understand them. Cars are going by and all that stuff, and the noise. And, and unless you're standing right next to him or her, it's very difficult to hear. And then the other thing is that their delivery is so boring, typically.
Right.
And so that's a problem. And my biggest problem with those tours is that they always take you to their friend's best cafe to get snacks, or the souvenir shop that's supposed to be the best in the city.
Yeah, yes.
But it's so obvious that they're getting kickbacks from these, right?
Yes, right.
And the stops are always so long. And you get tired of two old ladies haggling over the color of a scarf, Yeah. And when the tour's not leading until they're done paying for that scarf that they finally decide upon, Right. So those are just part of the problems with it. I mean, and one of the other things that's always difficult is they give you, obviously where the starting point is, because that's where you meet to go on it. But when they're done, they leave you in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
You don't know where you are. You can't figure out, how do I get back, without asking a lot of people, where's so-and-so hotel or whatever, Right. So it's very frustrating. And then people say, well, yeah, but it's free. Well, it's not quite free, in the sense that they make it very obvious that you have to give them a tip for it. Right? It's just the quality of it is never very, very good, at least in our experience. And we've been on a lot of them in a lot of different cities. So one day I said to myself, there's a better way of doing this. Why don't I figure a way that now, with this great little device we have called, a smartphone or a smart pad, let's use it. And let's find a way that can be your guide by yourself. And so that's what I set out to do years ago.
Let me jump in. And again, this is for the audience. You've designed Super Bowl halftime shows, innovative stuff. So, someone can spit out a bunch of facts and tell you stories about this mansion or whatever, but you think at a whole different level. You had a steamship float into the Super Bowl halftime show,
Yeah.
So when you're saying...
It raised 3 stories.
That's what I'm talking about. So when you say I can do a better tour, you're not just saying more facts or whatever. There's something more, I imagine.
Yeah. So, and having been a showman for, 50 years now, I thought, well, let's put a little showbiz in it as well. You know? Let's make it fun to listen to. Make it what I call an experience, something that people, they'll be proud of the time that they spend listening to it because it won't be wasted.
Right.
So that was the goal. Now, a little bit of backstory on it is that, quite a few years ago, my main company, the entertainment company, we were being asked by museums and things like that to do. They wanted us to do like the ones that you experience in a museum when you have a wand and you go through and stuff, because they wanted us to make it a little more fun than what they were getting from other people that were doing that. So we actually made an agreement with a company that manufactured the wands.
Right.
And we set out to do that for some of our selected clients that asked for it. But it turned out to be a horrible business because first, when it really got down to it, the museums particularly, there were some exceptions, but most of them, they don't want anything fancy. They want just the facts, ma'am. They don't want you to. They want you to concentrate on just delivering the facts about this painting or the next painting or whatever it is that this museum is famous for. And so here we are trying to do these and saying this isn't any fun. Right. Yeah. And then the other problem was the wands. The technology is really crap. And they would constantly break, and or there'd be some kind of a electronic problem with them or whatever. People would drop them, and destroy the electronics inside. And they would have to, the museum would have to then send it back to us to get a replacement. And we would have to reload that wand with the tour. And it was just painful. Right. So the technology really did it in for us. We just said, finally, oh, this is worthless. We're not going to do this anymore. But we started a sub company, and we used the name SelfTour. Mm-hmm. And so that was just put on the shelf, but we had done all the copyright and stuff and everything for the name and all that. So we had it, and it was just sitting on the shelf for years. So when I got this thought about creating a different kind of a tour experience, I had the name already. Yeah. And so I dusted all of that off and started using that as the name. The problem was I'm not a computer programmer. Right. So what am I going to do about that? Right. I did hire one person to give me some advice with kind of the whole thing about being in the app business, because that was the name of the game. Make an app. Yeah. Right. And he gave me a reference to an individual. He said, this guy can really make it happen for you. I said, okay. And I took his name and I called him and we chatted for a while, and he's actually in India. Uh-huh. I made a deal with him to work out the technological package for this thing. Right. We started on it, and the first one we start playing with was Hollywood, because since I'm located right here in Hollywood, I thought, well, that way I could keep going out on the street and checking it, to make sure things work. Yeah. And it actually took us a little over a year to develop the product, to develop the technology for it. Mm-hmm. And it got very frustrating because what I found out is, and what we found out, I should say, is that if you're walking down a sidewalk and you want to stop on this corner and talk about this mansion that's here on the corner or whatever it happens to be, well, you got to be in a specific spot. Okay? Now, cell phones, the GPS system, it's not very accurate.
Really?
It's very inaccurate, as a matter of fact. Huh. And because we would do the whole tour on Hollywood Boulevard, I'd go out and walk it, and I'd come back with my notes and things that we needed to adjust and change. We'd adjust and change them. I'd go out and walk again, and they'd be all different again. What? Different things would be. Some of them would be the same.
Crimes by people's location, and you're telling me that they don't know where they are?
This phone that I'm holding in my hand right now
Yes.
will show us located a block away from here.
Really?
And so I couldn't believe this.
Yeah.
So since I was working with Apple on this, I became an Apple developer. So I called them. They have a resource. And so I went to their support group in app making. And I said, here's my problem. And he said, oh, yeah. He said, GPS is really not accurate on your phone. I said, well, why is that? And he says it's close, but it's not specific, right?
Yeah.
And he said the reason is there's not enough room for a good antenna in your phone.
Really?
So the degree of accuracy is which phone you have, which model phone you have,
Right.
and whether it's the larger one or the smaller one or the pad, because they each have different antenna sizes on them. But none of them come anything close to what you have in your car.
Huh.
So your car is very accurate. Plus, with your car, what does it say to you when you're coming to the corner? It says that like in 1,000 feet, you're going to turn right.
Yeah.
Well, who's out there measuring 1,000 feet?
Right.
All you know is that at the next corner, you're going to turn right.
Yeah.
But that doesn't work if you're trying to find a particular spot on the street in in Hollywood Boulevard, or on Hollywood Boulevard. So that was a real revelation. So we had to deal with it. So now we have two types of tours.
Okay.
We have the walking tour,
Right.
and then we have driving tours. Now, the driving tours work perfectly. Again, why?
Yeah.
Because it just comes on your car system and says, okay, on your right now is this or that, or on your left is, and the music comes in and whatever. But again, you see, there's that difference of specific spots.
So wait, so when you have the tour on your phone, you're using the car's GPS to navigate or the phone's GPS?
When you're using in the car, you mean?
Yeah.
No, in the car, you're still using your phone.
But
The phone carries the information.
okay.
Okay. So, what you do is you hook your phone to your car system.
Okay.
So you hear it in your car system, or you can lay the phone on the seat and listen to it that way.
Right,
But
right.
it's not as
So
pleasant.
you plugged into the right. Okay.
Right.
So but the
And
GPS
Google
is
Play, you
more
can plug
accurate?
to not Google Play, but to CarPlay.
Yeah.
You can plug it in there.
Right.
So, but again, the reception and everything is coming through your phone.
Right. Okay.
And again, you don't know if it's 800 feet or 1,000 feet or.
Yeah.
Now, the walking tour, you don't have that advantage because you're looking at something that's here, and then you have to walk maybe 20 feet to something else that you're looking at.
Right.
Or you have to go around the corner. It doesn't, you have to be so specific that unfortunately it's not exact on your phone.
Really? Okay.
So what we had to do while on the phone, everything comes on. I mean, on the car. Excuse me. Let me go back. When you're driving your car and using the system, it works great, and it comes on totally automatic and tells you when to turn, but it tells you what's on your right, on your left.
Yeah.
It gives you the whole tour very uniquely. It's almost like magic, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we couldn't do that on the phone because of the accuracy situation.
Right.
So that's why on our tours on the phone, it does show you on the phone, you see the map that you're going to be walking or that you are walking, and it's got a blue line that you follow. The GPS ball will be bouncing around that, but it'll give you the general location of where you are. But we had to put an indicator on the map where you actually tap it for the next cue to play.
Got you. Okay.
So it'll say, so you look down and let's say you're at spot number 14.
Right.
Now. So when spot number 14 finishes playing, it says, okay, now you're going to walk and turn right at the next corner, and the next cue will be on your right. So sure enough, you could start, but you see it on the map as well. And then when you turn the corner, if you were on 14, now you push 15. That's there, and you see where it's at on the map.
Yeah.
And then it starts playing.
Right.
So we were able to get around that problem of not the inaccuracy of the GPS.
Right. Kind of like the old style of getting direction as well, as we're like at the Taco Bell, you make a left, or whatever. Like you give other.
Well, we
kinds of
still do
markers.
that as well. We give turn-by-turn vocal directions as well.
Yeah, yeah. So when you go to make a better tour, I mean, the phone thing is great, right? Like, so you buy the app or whatever, and then bam, you're in whatever town. Where are the tours at?
Right.
Is it I don't know, use Hollywood? What else is there?
Well, we've got, we actually, of the walking tours, we have 5, and the driving tours, we have 2 currently.
But you have 4 new ones you said coming up.
Coming
as
up,
well.
right.
Okay, so what are all of them?
Okay, so the ones that are currently up and working is Historic Philadelphia,
Okay.
which is a loop around the National Park area, and everything from Independence Hall to Betsy Ross House, etc.
Right.
And we really tell a wonderful story with that one. And
Okay.
we can talk more about it later. The next one we have is Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Now, if you've ever tried to walk around Washington, D.C., it's a big
It's a lot of
area.
walking.
It's a lot of walking, all right?
Yeah.
So I just picked an area. What I did was I just picked a route that is what I feel is pretty walkable. Okay? And it goes from the White House to the Capitol,
Yeah.
and then back down along the mall back to the White House.
So you don't go to Arlington Memorial or
No, but we have a driving tour that does that.
Ah, okay. Yes. And
Yeah.
you go to the Jefferson because that's also just a little bit off the beaten path.
No, it's too far.
Right. It's too
a
far.
walk.
For a walk, yeah.
Yeah,
a
it's
long
too
way.
far.
Yeah. It's gorgeous, but it's
So
out there.
what I did was I did some research and I found the things that people want to see most.
Okay.
On the way to the Capitol, you go by Ford's Theater to see where Lincoln was shot. You go by the Trump Hotel.
Yeah.
So you see things that are very popular now, right? And coming back, we take you past the museums, past the new African American museum that they just opened recently, Washington Monument, and then we loop back up to the White House again.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to see in that space, but it's very walkable.
Yeah. Okay.
And,
But there's also a driving tour.
but the driving tour takes you, and actually, the driving tour is our second biggest selling. The
Is it
driving
really?
tour of Washington.
All right.
Yeah.
I like it.
And I'm finding out the reason why. Now, I've spent a lot of time in Washington, D.C.,
Right.
because I did all that work for Reagan when he was president. I even did projects for Nixon and Bush. So I've spent a lot of time in Washington. And the weather sucks.
That's true. Especially for walking.
For walking.
How many T-shirts do you need? 27 shirt day. Yes. Yes.
It's either so hot and humid you can hardly move, or it's freezing cold.
Freezing cold all the time. Yeah.
There's only a short period, on each end of summer that it's pleasant.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's not when most people go. Everybody goes in the summertime and it sucks.
It's so hot.
So what we say in our promotion about that tour is that, hey, you load the family in the car, put a cooler in the back seat with some drinks and some snacks, and start out driving, right?
Yeah.
And so in that one we take you to places like. We do the National Mall. We do both sides of the National Mall, which includes Capitol Hill and the Lincoln Memorial. And then we see Chinatown. We take you to Embassy Row.
Wow.
We go to past the Vice President's house. We go all the way out to the National Cathedral, then back down into Georgetown.
That's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, and into Arlington Cemetery and the Marine, the very famous Marine Memorial that's out by it, and then back in. So it all loops. And it's a very fun and inexpensive way. For $12, you get the whole damn tour.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And there's a lot to talk about. I mean, we go by where Reagan was shot. We go past the Kennedy house in Georgetown, the John Kennedy house in Georgetown. We go by the Clinton house. Of course, we go by the White House. So it really gives you a real perspective of the whole area of Washington. We even invite you to get out and look for the Darth Vader face in the National Cathedral, in the facade of the National Cathedral. It's there. You got to find it.
Yeah.
So
So wait, so you're saying that during the tour, you might pop them out of the car
Oh yeah.
to go do something like, can you even drive through Arlington still, or is that walking?
No, you cannot drive through the cemetery. We just lead you to the parking lot.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. They just changed that a couple of years ago, where now you have to, you can either walk or they give you a bus tour through it. Because there was too much going on, too many security problems, and
it's a lot. It's a lot of people that go through that, and it's massive.
It's massive,
hard to control. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And there's so many interesting. It sounds funny to go look at graves, but there's so many interesting graves and people to go see. There's it's a who's who in that place.
And now they have a whole center where they orient you on everything and then send you on your way. So it's
So Philadelphia, Washington twice, walking and driving. What else is there?
Well, Rome.
What?
Rome.
You're international?
Our first international one. Yeah. And that one is really fun too.
Oh my goodness. How long is that tour?
It's not that long. It's and it loops from the Spanish Steps.
Is it driving or is it walking?
Walking.
Okay.
Walking. You can't drive in Rome.
Well, yeah. You got to have a scooter. Beep, beep.
Yeah.
Like crazy. Yeah. You got to hold on to some. You got to hire a driver and just hang on and go. Set the thing for 50 miles an hour. So, Rome. Wow. Okay. Please continue.
So you start at the Spanish Steps.
Right.
And you go down, through the whole key shopping area there and everything, and then you go to the Pantheon, and you loop around up to the Vatican, and then come down along the river and through really a back area where there's all these palaces and things, and open markets and things where the locals shop and stuff, and then you end up at the Forum.
Right.
And then you get from the Forum, you work your way around through some other palaces and things, and back up to the Trevi Fountain, and then back to the Spanish Steps.
Yeah.
It's really a fun, and we have a lot of fun with some of the traditions of Rome.
Yeah.
Now remember, the key thing in each of the tours is their circle tours.
Okay.
Driving or walking.
Right.
Okay. You end up where you start.
Right.
And we have suggested starting places. Like I just said, you can start at the Spanish Steps, but you don't have to. Right. If your hotel is closer to the Forum, you can start there and make the whole loop around.
Got you. That makes sense. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So and end up back at your hotel.
Right.
Okay. The same with well, all of them are the same. They all are loops. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, and the nice thing is that you're not on a forced march with a group.
Yeah. Right.
You can stop.
Go have lunch.
Stop at a cafe, have lunch, a little wine in Rome, get up and continue on. Or do part of it today, do part of it tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
So do part of it in the evening. We also encourage that because particularly in a city like Rome, the lights in the evening and everything, it's just, it's a whole different, it's a whole different environment. It's just gorgeous. And remember, our tours have music.
What? Oh, really? Okay.
Everything is supported with music, dramatic music that helps, and the music matches the situation or the location or the mood of where you are.
Yeah.
In in Rome at the Forum, we have this very dramatic entry, the gladiators type music. We talk about how the gladiators would come down this one center road of the Forum area, and we paint the picture for you with the sound as well.
Hey, this is Pete A. Turner from Lions Rock Productions. We create podcasts around here. And if you, your brand, or your company want to figure out how to do a podcast, just talk to me. I'll give you the advice on the right gear, the best plan, and show you how to take a podcast that makes sense for you, that's sustainable, that's scalable, and fun. Hit me up at pete@breakitdownshow.com. Let me help. I want to hear about it.
And we paint the picture for you with the sound as well.
Yeah. Boy, that's so good. Because you know how important sound is to anything. I have subtitles on because my ears are all blown up. And I have hearing aids, and you see it'll say like tense music or suspense-filled music plays is the thing, and I'm like, okay, yeah, but it's there for a reason because it does enhance the experience. That's a genius thing to add in.
Yeah, and we have some really fun with the music as well, and we also recreate characters.
Okay,
so that. the characters that were famous for that particular location. Like in the Philadelphia tour, we have Benjamin Franklin speaking and over part of it, because he was really the spokesman for everything during his time in Philadelphia, and he was a very clever speaker. And so we create some of that. With a voice that sounds like Ben Franklin, we think.
We don't know what he sounds like, right?
Yeah, we don't.
But
we didn't have tape recorders in those days.
So Philadelphia, DC, Rome.
Right. Okay, then we have legendary Hollywood.
Okay, Hollywood,
which was our first one.
The first one. Yeah, okay.
And that includes everything from the Chinese Theater to the Dolby Theater, where the Academy Awards take place, down Hollywood Boulevard. But what's interesting about it, it actually goes along where you follow the famous Walk of Stars in the street, and we talk about certain people in the stars. But also, what's interesting about that, people don't know it, but that is where the whole film industry started. Was on that street, basically. The first studio was one block off of Hollywood and Vine.
Yeah.
It's not there anymore. You can actually see it where it is. They moved it many years ago. But that's where all the action was for years. The premieres, everything, with everything that happened on that street. Even the one area, just one block off of the street, is where that was like the first Beverly Hills, where all the stars lived and everything, Yeah. And it's a charming area to walk through. It's on a hill. Yeah, so Hollywood.
What? Anything else in California?
Well, the driving tour in Sonoma.
Oh, okay. So you're going to go drink some wine up in the Napa-Sonoma Valley area. You're going to go up there.
That the drive is considered one of the most, not by us, but by everybody that rates these things, one of the most beautiful drives in America.
It's gorgeous. Yeah, it really is.
Our drive starts in Sonoma, right at the square. And just a few blocks off of the square is Buena Vista Winery, which is actually the first winery in California.
Nice.
If you don't call, and it's still there, it's a very old place, and it's hard to find. It's back in the hills. And we take you there on the tour. And, of course, Sonoma, and then we work our way up Sonoma Valley, go to the wineries that are on that side, and then you loop over the mountain and come down to Calistoga, which is at the north end of the Napa Valley.
Right.
And you come down through Napa, hitting all the most popular and famous wineries on both sides.
Right.
So, and then you actually loop back around and you end up back at Sonoma again, if you make the whole loop.
So if you want to do, if you're going to be there for a couple of days, I would imagine that you could, with the loop in place, we're going to go hit 3 wineries today and just take the tour and then stop, get out and do your wine check and then...
Yeah. Well, in fact, I've done it several times just to test the program and everything. And typically, I get a hotel in Sonoma.
Right.
And it's just such a quaint, beautiful town.
That square is ridiculous.
The square is just incredible, And if you get a hotel that's like right downtown and everything, it's just so quaint. And then I do the drive up Sonoma Valley, and there's wonderful places you can stop along the way, the little towns and things that we actually lead you through. It's just so picturesque.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then what I then do is I make the loop over the mountain.
I want to say this about
to Calistoga
this whole area. We'll press pause at Calistoga, but here's what people don't necessarily understand about this area. People that go there to start a business, it is their dream. They're going to start a cheese place, a winery aside, for sure.
Right.
But, I want to have a bed and breakfast. I want to have a little cafe. And it is their dream to do it in this place. And so you're walking in literally to someone's dream.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm glad you're here. And you're just like, this is the best place ever because everybody is just, it's already beautiful, but the people are beautiful too because this is what they've always wanted to do and they're giving it their best shot.
Right.
You don't have just angry people. You have always wonderful people.
Yeah. Like just one block off of the main road.
Yeah.
But we take you there is Glen Ellen.
Okay.
Okay. It is the most beautiful, with a little stream, right? It is the most beautiful little village you can imagine.
Yes.
Yeah. And people never see it because they just drive by on the highway or something,
Right.
But we take you there.
Nice.
So things like that, you're right. And we actually, there's hundreds of wineries in the area.
Right.
So we really select the ones that we feel are most important, either because of their history or who owns them or where it fell in over the years in making wine, in the whole industry, how it grew up there. It's really so we think we give you a really good experience, and we take it to some of the most outrageous ones and some of the smallest ones.
Yeah, they're some of the best. I love it.
Yeah,
and it seems like every winery started with someone smuggling in grapes from Italy or from France or somewhere. Napa, Hollywood. I'm going to get all these right. Philadelphia, Washington D.C. driving, Washington D.C. walking, Rome. What's next?
French Quarter, New Orleans.
Whoa, okay, yeah, that's gotta. I mean, there's no town in America that's more historic and older. Everything there is like, this was the first time this happened. This was the first place this happened.
It is.
We invented this. I mean, it is full of that stuff.
Remember, it was a city before it was even part of the United States.
Right, yeah.
And it's fascinating. Again, we New Orleans is of course a fairly large city, so we concentrate again in the French Quarter.
Yeah,
it's very walkable.
Right.
We take you to 4 haunted houses and describe why they're haunted. And again, because we have audio effects, so we actually recreate the steps that people hear, the footsteps and creaking and everything, you know, so that you really get a feel.
Lit up. He legitimately loves this. You got to hear it. Okay. Yeah. So you put the sound effects in and they're walking around, and absolutely a very walkable. I mean, everything in that French Quarter is completely walkable.
Yeah. It's flat, number one.
Right.
You know, so there's no challenge whatsoever.
Right.
And it's not that large. And yet there's so many different things that are so interesting there. And we put a real edge on this one because the main person, I should talk a little bit about our narrators.
Okay.
We pick different narrators that we feel are appropriate for the particular thing. And they're all professionals.
Right.
And, or they're celebrities or quasi-celebrities.
Okay.
And in the case of the French Quarter,
right,
the man who does that is a 2-time Grammy Award winner for blues music.
That's right.
Chris Thomas King is his name.
He's actually going to be on the show again for a 3rd time talking about his new place, Tabby's, that he opened up.
Really?
Yeah, so we're
great.
all connected with that. That's fantastic, and he's the perfect guy for that.
He's perfect. He is. I found out doing research that he is the most, by the Smithsonian Institute, he's the most respected person on blues music.
Right.
And, blues came first, and then from blues came jazz.
Jazz, right.
It evolved that way.
Yes. And he also says, I'm going to steal a little bit of your thunder. He also says the blues were invented in New Orleans. He's like, not Mississippi. What was in Mississippi 120 years ago? Maybe mountain lions, and grass, and water. There's no people out there. You think it just was born? He's like, no, it was born here, right here in the French Quarter.
Yeah, so we actually sample some of the original blues artist music, and in the course of it, and as you're walking through everything, and of course we talk about Mardi Gras and how. Now, what's interesting is Mardi Gras actually goes back to Rome. In the Forum in Rome was the Temple of Saturn.
Right.
And they used to have what was called Saturnella, which was Carnival. And of course, Carnival became, Carnival begins on Tuesday night, right? Before Lent, right? Yes. Before Ash Wednesday. Yeah. Well, Mardi Gras means Tuesday night.
Yeah.
And in French.
Yeah.
It translates. And so Mardi Gras is it's the same celebration. In fact, I had done research earlier on this because we actually went to Brazil for Carnival down there. I actually did a project, and I needed some of the big costumes and things that they use in Central America.
Yeah,
and so I got those there, and so I've really become very acquainted with Carnival. But if you look at the history of it, it goes way back to like the Druids or so, way before. Wow. And it was
I was hoping that it went back to Mars and not Saturn, because Tuesday is named after Mars, and Saturn is named after Saturday, but it didn't work out that way.
Well, they had the temple there named Saturn.
Yeah.
So
Right. That's his party. All right. I bet Mars is pissed though. He's like, damn it, that should have been my day. So I mean, that's incredible. So you get Chris Thomas King to do this, and obviously he's got that great voice, his accent and everything. It's all fantastic.
Yeah.
So what else does he bring that makes it special?
Well, he brings his own personal knowledge because he lives there.
Right.
And he grew up there.
Right.
So he added a lot of his own personal knowledge of the city, to the French Quarter, to the script before we even recorded it.
Wow. So he grabbed the script from you and started.
Yeah.
That's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
and then some of his music is in it too.
Yes, some of his music's in it.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm very proud of that one. That one turned out very well. As couldn't have been better. And again, you got voodoo in New Orleans.
Yeah,
we talk about that.
Yeah.
You got pirates. We do a whole pirate thing. It was Pirates Alley is one of the streets in New Orleans,
right,
in the French Quarter. So we do a whole pirates thing.
What about Battle of New Orleans?
We do the Battle of New Orleans,
Nice.
And it's interesting because it ties together. Because who was the president or the general of the Battle of New Orleans?
Andrew Jackson.
Yeah, Andrew Jackson. Well, he didn't have anything. He had a small group of soldiers there,
right,
and he knew the big British army was coming. Right,
the best army in the world.
The best army in the world. Right.
Yes.
So he didn't know what to do, but he knew one thing: the pirates had all the power. So he met with Lafitte, the pirate,
all right,
who lived in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And he kept his ships out in the bay there. But Lafitte had this huge stockpile of gunpowder and cannons.
Yeah.
And all this stuff. So he made a deal with Lafitte because Lafitte's brother was already in prison in New Orleans they were able to prove he was a pirate and so forth. So he made a deal and said, okay, Lafitte, I will get your brother out of prison if you help us.
Yeah.
By allowing us to use some of your ships and your storehouse of war equipment that you have.
Yeah.
So we tell that story. We also tell the story about how he won the battle.
How did he win the battle?
He was genius.
Yeah.
That's why he became president, I guess. Because he knew that they were going to be coming up from the south where they would dock their ships in this particular harbor there, right? Yeah. And because it's the closest from the sea to New Orleans.
Right.
But it also happens to be, there's a strip of it where Lake Pontchartrain is, that is the narrowest passage between the river and Lake Pontchartrain.
Right.
And so what he did is he knew they'd have to be coming through there, right? So he took his men plus a lot of city volunteers. I mean, everybody in the city was trying to help. And they cleared all the trees in that area.
Yes.
So nobody could hide behind anything. They blew up boulders and things and just made it a flat mass.
Come
right?
on in.
Come on in. And then what he did was he dug a trench that was 6 feet wide and 6 feet deep, all the way from the river to the lake.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
And he took and he put the dirt on the New Orleans side and made a berm,
right,
that the men could hide behind,
yes,
right? And well, first they put wood logs and things so the dirt wouldn't fall back into the hole.
Yeah.
And they made that about 4 or 5 feet high, that berm, right? And then what they did was they flooded the trench,
right,
with the water from the lake.
Yeah.
Right. So now the British had to come across barren land.
Yeah.
And then they had to get across this trench that they couldn't jump because there was a barrier on the other side of it.
Right.
In those days, people didn't know how to swim, basically, or whatever, you know.
Hadn't invented swimming yet.
And so I don't remember this. It's in the script, or when you listen to it, it'll tell you the number. But the number of people that were killed on the British side was thousands.
Right.
and he lost.
It forever changed British doctrine in fighting. Like, you wouldn't go head on into, at least especially American forces.
Really?
Yeah, it changed how they fought forever after that. And here's another thing that happened too: is they used a lot of palm trees, and because they're fibrous, it would catch the bullet because this old slow lead bullets, and so it basically would turn the palm tree into a leaden barrier. And so, like, the longer they fought, they couldn't shoot through it, and so it was all these crazy things that, you know.
And he lost like 13 men.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And they lost thousands.
Yeah, and the war was already over. Well, you know, it was really over now. If you weren't convinced. Yeah, that's fantastic. So the New Orleans one, that just sounds great. Plus, New Orleans is great, but if you do go and you're like, I don't just want to drink the entire time, I want to see, because it is so historic. There's so many great things. There's great restaurants, all that stuff.
Yeah. And we point out some of them, you know, along the way that some of those restaurants have very interesting history. They go back so long,
right?
You know,
some of the oldest restaurants in the nation.
Yeah. So it's fascinating. Fascinating.
What other locations are there?
Where?
What other locations do you have tours for? I should say.
Well, okay, those are the 7 that we have up now.
And then you have some more that are imminent, that are coming, that may be out as the show comes out.
Yes. Barcelona.
Oh, wow. I love Barcelona.
Barcelona is the most fabulous city.
Yeah, I love that place. Okay.
And it's beautiful.
Yes.
And the attitude of the people in Barcelona is so wonderful.
I spent an evening in Barcelona during the European Cup for soccer. And that's all you got to say. It's like, it was crazy. Everybody from everywhere was there. They were all having a great time.
Well, it's interesting. Now, part of that tour takes place because a lot of interesting things are on La Rambla. It's probably the most famous street, one of the most famous streets in Europe, you know. And it's just so quaint, and it's covered with trees, and beautiful, and it's got all these mansions and things alongside it that have now been converted into different things. But it's interesting. They just converted one of them into the headquarters for Barca, which is the soccer team for Barcelona. Right. And it's really a treat because you go in, and the first part of it is obviously they're selling team merchandise and that sort of thing. But then you go into the back half of it, and what they do is they recreate, using special projections and everything, they recreate the excitement at a Barca game, which is unbelievable. They create... The entire stadium is cards. Everybody holding up colored cards to form different patterns. And
where did they get that from?
Yeah, and they've been doing it longer than me. Yeah. But anyway, and nobody sits down for the entire soccer game. Yeah. There's no experience. Everybody says, if you've been to a Barcelona football soccer game. There's no other experience like it.
Right.
No, you can not the Super Bowl, not, you know. Yeah. Because it is so infectious the way they do it. It's amazing. Yeah. Anyway, they try to recreate that so you can actually get a feeling for what it's like during one of the games back there. So So obviously we had to put that on the tour.
Of course. So Barcelona, what else?
Well, okay, we just finished recording Dubrovnik.
Wow, okay. Dalmatian Coast.
Dubrovnik is such a wonderful place.
So wonderful. And it always wins like the most beautiful place in Europe all the time.
Yeah, it's called the Pearl of the Adriatic.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
The weather is perfect. And it's a completely walled city.
Right.
And there are no cars in it. It's a total walking city.
Right.
So, and
tons of history. Yeah. As far back as history goes.
Yeah.
It's been there. Yeah.
So that one's turned out really, really well too. And our host for that is a person who grew up in Dubrovnik. And he still has his accent and everything.
That's good. Yeah.
And he's also a professional voiceover person. It's kind of funny. He said, he spent years trying to get rid of my accent. And now you want me to do it?
Yes. Yes, I do. That's great.
But he was a pleasure to work with and does a very good job. And again, he wanted to look at the script beforehand and check for being authentic. And he added some things that even with all the research we do, we didn't know about.
Right.
I love it. It's going to be terrific. So it's going to be really great.
Dubrovnik. What else?
Well, actually, tomorrow we record Paris.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Now-
Paris.
okay,
And you cannot
this-
walk all of that.
You cannot walk.
You need 17 tours.
Yes, exactly. Now that was the challenge.
Yeah.
What do we do? Now,
Champs-Élysées
Dubrovnik
up
was
and down?
easy. You
Yeah.
could, it's a little
not-
walking town,
right.
you know. What do you do with Paris? So after doing some research, I think I came up with exactly the right thing.
Okay.
The center of Paris is called Les Cités,
Okay.
which translates as the city.
Okay.
La Cité is actually the two islands in the middle of the Seine River.
Right.
Okay? That's actually where Paris started, is on one of those islands.
All right.
And it's still, everyone in Paris considers it's still the heart of the city. And it's where Marie Antoinette was held in prison.
Right.
It's got so much history.
So much. Just that one spot. So you're telling me the tours, you stand still for an hour? Tell all the stories.
Well, in some cases, it's not an hour, but it's
Yeah.
it's definitely 4 or 5 minutes, which gives you a good background.
Right.
I think it's got the most. Well, Notre Dame is on the island.
Yeah.
It's also got what I think is the most beautiful church.
Go ahead and say it. Saint-Chapelle, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Saint-Chapelle.
Yes.
Gorgeous. Yes. Do you have a press the sun come out button? Because if you can go in there and it's gorgeous, but you go in there on a sunny day.
Oh yeah. Well, they call it the church without walls
Right. Yeah.
because it's all stained glass except
Yeah.
for little supports between
Yeah.
them. You know,
Yeah.
it's like totally stained glass.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And so many people don't know about it even.
It's incredible how many people don't know about it.
Ah,
And Notre Dame is wonderful, but it is ugly
it
in
is.
comparison.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Yeah.
And that so they actually started on that, the Parigi tribe. Actually, they started living on the island because it was secure. They couldn't be, but the Romans found a way to take them.
Unsecure it.
They had to unsecure them, and they came in with their military, and they took it. But then they started their own city on the left bank,
Right.
next to the island,
Yes.
and they built a road from there all the way down to Orleans, France.
Okay. Right.
And so that became a very trafficked route. But then everything that's important stayed on Les Cités.
Yes.
It's called Ile for island, Les Cités.
Okay.
My French is not very good.
Neither is mine.
So we actually start at the Pont Petit,
Okay.
which was the first bridge built to the island. The Romans built it out of wood originally.
Yeah.
And the reason they build it out of wood, even though they can build anything, the Romans could build anything,
Yeah.
but they built it out of wood because what would happen is if invaders were coming, everybody would rush onto the island and they'd burn the bridge.
Right.
And the Seine
Now
is
what are you gonna do?
and the Seine is a very deep river
Yeah.
and it has a very fast
Not
current.
meant for swimming. Yeah.
You're not going to swim it,
Right.
Right, even if you knew how to swim in those days.
Call back.
So anyway, the tour starts at the Petite Bridge, and then it goes to right next to that is where the old Roman marketplace was, and it's been a park for years, and they still have like Christmas market there and stuff like that. But it's on the left bank, and we talk about the left bank, and right there is Shakespeare and Company, which is writer's haven, right there next to that park.
Yeah.
And from that park is this. If you look at Notre Dame, you have an excellent view of it, but with the bushes and trees kind of around it because they're in the park.
Yeah.
And that's the one the painters for centuries have. That's where they've stood
that view that you
to
see,
paint
yeah.
their most famous pictures of
Right.
of Notre Dame at. And also there is the second oldest tree in France, which is a 420-year-old tree.
Wow.
That's still growing there.
Wow. That's old.
Yeah.
That's old. Yeah. Okay.
And so then from there, you work your way down or upriver now, if you're going upriver. And there's multiple things to see, different views of course, of Notre Dame from there. But we do a lot of exploration of that side of the river up to where you get onto a bridge that goes across to the second island.
Okay.
Now, before you go across, on the right is a restaurant that is where, reportedly, King Henry IV learned how to use a fork.
That's funny.
Now, this restaurant is still a going place.
Yeah.
In fact, if you go in and want the specialty for the evening,
Yeah.
it's 320 euros
Whoa.
a person.
Whoa. Yeah.
A person.
Jeez. Yeah, that's expensive. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Yeah. 320 is not cheap.
So here it's a centuries old
Yeah.
restaurant that is still going strong.
Right.
So anyway, when you go across the bridge to the second island, which is Ile St. Louis, St. Louis was a king, one of the kings of France, and he became a saint because of several things that happened to him. But anyway, that island, when the Parisis were living on the larger island, the smaller one was pasture land and so forth, so that they could they did crops and cows and things over there, and they had a group of men who really mastered boating that fast river. And so they were able to, for a small fee, they would take you back and forth or around, So anyway, but the interesting thing was, back in the late 1600s, a guy got the permission from the king to develop that island. And he built nothing but big mansions on this island, which are still there today.
Right. Okay.
And and for the first time, typically when they built these big mansions, or what they call hotels. Hotel means mansion or big townhouse.
Okay.
The word hotel in French. So they built these hotels on the west on the left bank. There's a lot of these as well, which we also talk about as you're coming down. But then what happens is he, for the first time, they used to always be focused to a courtyard in the center, okay? But what he did was he focused them out because of the views across the river,
right?
To now the left bank and the right bank, right?
Right.
And so these were filled with all of the court dignitaries, the important people, and they're incredibly beautiful places. On the inside, not too much on the outside, but on the inside. But it's all still there like that. And what's so incredible is that in the center, when you first cross over the bridge, on the right, this one big mansion was Marie Curie's home.
Oh, okay.
She's the one that founded X-rays and plutonium, and
Nobel and all that stuff.
She was two-time Nobel winner. Incredibly beautiful, incredibly educated person, and very smart. Did so many things that helped science, and of course, because of what she did, it also killed her.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, right.
Radiation got to her.
Right.
Yeah. But so her house is there on the right side.
Yeah.
And then you go a little bit further, and the most famous restaurant company, it's the base of the most famous ice cream company in Paris.
Okay.
And then you walk past, you go by that on this island, and you go up along the other side, and you can actually see into some of the mansions and things that are there. And then you come to this most incredible point. It's called Point Bourbon. Okay. And it's right at the tip of that island, and if you look across the waterway to the other island, you've got Notre Dame, you've got these mansions that are along the water on that island, on La Cité, and you have these incredible views of the right bank of Paris as well. It's called Lover's Point because people go there and spread out their blankets and enjoy their picnic and look at the views from the island. And then if you just go up a few steps around, you come to this little square that's been recreated in so many movies and everything. It is what you imagine old Paris looking like, you know. There's 3 outdoor restaurants there that have been there for, I know one of them was 122 years old, and another one is, but they're all done up in that old Paris style.
Yeah.
And there's limited traffic, so there's not a roar of the roads or anything there.
Right.
And one of the views is the back of Notre Dame. The other view is the left bank, and of course the right bank to the other side. It's just a beautiful square, just a place. If you ever want to go to Paris, and you want to experience old Paris.
Yeah.
You got to go to one of these restaurants there.
Right.
Yeah. It's just amazing. And you've seen these scenes in movies for years.
Yeah.
So from there, you go to Hotel de Ville, which is City Hall, and we talk about that. There wasn't a mayor in Paris until 1977.
Wow. Really? Never a mayor?
Never a mayor.
Wow. Okay.
It was ruled by kings and whatever,
Yeah.
And then you go by some other very interesting and beautiful streets, and you come to where the 2 giant theaters are that were built, live performance theaters. And then you go across the bridge back onto La Cité. Remember, we're making a circle.
Yeah.
And here's where you come to the famous old clock, the city clock of Paris.
Right. Okay.
And that whole side over there has been a palace since the 14th century.
Okay.
But it's been remodeled a little bit here and there, but it's basically the same. But it's not, for centuries, it's been the place of justice. When the king moved from there, he moved to the Louvre.
The Louvre, right.
The Louvre was a palace as well.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a big palace.
Yeah. So he went across the river to the Louvre.
Yeah.
But so this place became the seat of justice for France. And this is where the cell, you can go see the cell of Marie Antoinette.
Wow, okay.
Where she was held before she was beheaded.
Right.
And where her trial was held and so forth. And then you go back across the St. Michel Bridge over to, which has an interesting but kind of depressing history in that there's been a lot of fighting, even in the Second World War. Well, that's where the students from the university and the police from the police barracks that were there and stuff actually held off the Germans long enough until a group of French military could get back there. And a lot of the French people died, of course, and it's where all the protests are and all that. So that's got a whole different side. But now you're back on the left bank as well. So the left bank has got the artistic side, and the right bank has got the government and fashion. And you say that, but then the Louvre is on the right side, So But I think it's going to be very interesting, and it's an area that people just don't think about spending a lot of time at.
You've got one more new one coming out, and what's that one? Real fast.
Prague.
Oh, I love Prague.
The incredible city of Prague, which
great.
has been an incredible city for, many hundreds of years.
Right. Yeah.
And so we loop you through there. If there's some very special, that was where Mozart he premiered all of his operas and everything. Yeah. It's got incredible history. And of course, the most famous thing is the clock there that's still every hour.
Yeah.
It has all these mechanisms and everything. There's such an interesting story about that, where after it was built, I can't remember offhand how many years ago, several centuries ago. It was so beautiful. So the mayor of the town, they were afraid he was going to go build another clock. So they blinded him.
Oh, God. Wow.
Sad story, but anyway, that's and we got more in future planning.
Yeah,
but
what are some snapshots of a couple that are coming up?
Well,
Reno? Reno?
No. One that we're working on right now, long range, is actually a tour of the Forbidden City.
Oh, wow.
If you've ever been there,
Never have, yeah.
it's a huge place. But it can be a good walking tour. In fact, they
Yeah.
do have walking tours of
Right.
it. But again, you have to pay a guide or whatever, And the Chinese are really hard to understand, the guides. I've had that problem there. There's so many interesting parts of that area where the king lived and all of his.
What about Buddha and or Pest? Because that's a little dual city thing that grew into something wonderful.
That's on the list.
Okay.
And I'm also looking at some more U.S. ones. Nashville.
Nashville would be good. Yes.
Yeah, good music tour of Nashville.
Yeah. How about Las Vegas? Something off the strip.
Well, there's nothing. If you get off the strip, there's nothing interesting. The strip is so bland. I can't find a way to make.
Okay. All right. Some places it's different.
Yeah, it was. I just was in Las Vegas for a week last week.
There was a guy we met. He worked at the Wynn Golf Course, which before that was the Sands Golf Course, and that guy was there the entire time. I'm sure he's passed away by now, but he had all the stories.
Yeah.
And he knew everything, and it was just. And hopefully some of that history is preserved somewhere, because there is a lot of neat stuff, because, the people that live there in residency, they lived off the strip, just a few blocks away. But one more place that's coming. What else do you really want to get to?
I'm sort of torn as to I really want to do it or not, but it's Romania. We just toured the Dracula's castle and the whole what's that area called? It's just slipping in my mind. Transylvania.
Yeah,
it's an incredible area.
Right.
These incredible villages, very old and very quaint and really interesting. They're all built in the Carpathian Mountains.
Yeah,
it's just and of course. Dracula's castle, but then also there were several other major castles and things there. It's just a beautiful, beautiful area. The problem is not that many people go there. From a business standpoint,
this isn't money making venture.
Yeah. But our tours are I think for $6, which is what you pay for a walking tour.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't have a glass of wine in a cafe for that,
right.
Much less a whole tour, and $12 for the driving tours.
Yeah.
It's really a bargain, and I wanted to do that. And I also want to say that, there's been a lot of temptations, and people ask me, well, do you have sponsors like restaurants that you pay, that pay you to put you? And I said, no, I want these things to be pure. I really only want to feature things that are of great interest. I don't want people paying me to say, "Oh, this is a great restaurant."
Right.
When it could be a terrible restaurant. I don't know.
Yeah. Who knows who the owner is 2 years from now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's fair. So it's a pure experience created by a person who creates big, extravagant things, and you're paying $6 to $12 for this experience. I mean, you get Chris Thomas King and his music and his narration and his history for $6.
For $6,
You could not hire Chris for $6 to walk you around town, and yet here he is doing it for $6.
All right.
I mean, it's awesome. It's an incredible thing, and the next time you have one on, let's have you come on and come back.
Yeah. Okay. Our website. We want to send everybody to the website.
Please say that.
SelfTour.guide. GUIDE.
SelfTour.guide. That'll be in the show notes for sure. Anything else?
I just hope people enjoy them, and I would love responses back.
Okay. You guys know the deal. Yeah, make sure when you guys go and you do it, rate and review it, and for sure let Ron know. And if you can't get a hold of him, you can get a hold of me, Pete A. Turner at breakitdownshow.com, or just Pete at breakitdownshow.com. And you can get a hold of those guys at the website as well, SelfTour.guide. Ron, thank you very much for doing this.
My pleasure.